My Lady, the Chief Justice and the President of the Court and members of the Court, for the first and second petitioner, my name is James Orengo. I appear with my landed...
with submissions by the petition, on behalf of petition number 2 of 2022, that is the Youth Advocacy Africa and Peter Kireka. We would like to clarify some issues arising from the scrutiny that is going on, and I will request my brother, Mr. Justice Venaura, to do that on our behalf.
Thank you, CJ. We have received information from the registrar of the court that parties have been unable to agree on how to conduct the exercise in order number 7 of the directions given in the ruling on scrutiny and recount. That order reads as follows. That IEBC should provide certified copies of Forms 32A and 34A Book 2 used in the imputed election, subject the applicants providing the IEBC specific contested polling stations for compliance thereof. We thought, in our wisdom, that that order is specific to contested polling stations, but what we have instead, Otieno Gola writes and said he wants the Forms 32A for all 229 stations. Joachim Bosch and company write and say they want for 238 stations. I believe the petitioners, first petitioners, have asked for 517 stations. Obviously, with the time we have, and you've already spent the whole day haggling on this, 24 hours or 48 hours are gone, it is now impossible to comply with that order, and therefore, the court directs as follows. The applicants shall only, the IEBC shall only provide the 32As and 34As Book 2 from 41 stations, polling stations, that are in the affidavit of Celestine Anyango Opio. That is the only way that exercise can be can have meaning. And that those forms will be a sample for which you can submit in accordance with your pleadings. We cannot allow you, we said, to go outside your pleadings, because what's happening now, we are creating a new case out of these forms. So please stick to your pleadings, and once we get those, the report on those forms, you submit on them in the context of your pleadings. And so, Caleb Khalifa's petition, Willis Otieno's petition, Willis Otieno, the petition by Raila Odinga, and the petition by Joachim Bosch. Those are the 3 petitions where these issues arise. Please submit only on those issues. I hope I'm clear. And we don't expect debate on these. We expect compliance. I thank you very much, CJ. I thank you, Council. And remember, CJ, and Council, this exercise must be conducted before 2 p.m. tomorrow. What will be undone by tomorrow will be undone. I thank you.
Thank you, Justice Venaura.
My Lady, the Chief Justice and members of the court, we are also having difficulties with the orders relating to inspection of the servers. We have been given restricted access only to the result transmission system, and only it has not been granted yet, only to one server, and it is established that the IEBC has got 8 servers. We have taken the decision to write formally to the registrar in the hope that the court eventually can resolve this matter as quickly as possible, because we are running out of time. but there's no compliance in terms of the orders that the court gave.
We are aware about that issue. We are following up on the question, and as far as we know, the exercise is continuing. Should there be an issue later in the day or tomorrow morning, we shall receive a report. But as far as we know, by the time we got out of here, the exercise had commenced. There was an agreement on how to access the server that was given, and the issue of cloning is being addressed. So let's leave it for now. Let's report again tomorrow morning. I thank you, CJ. I thank you, Mr. Orengo. We are aware about that issue.
May I, with your very kind permission, Madam Chief Justice, I would like to rectify a mistake. We intimated to you yesterday that the two commissioners, Professor Guleye and Boya Molu, would have separate representation. That has been achieved, and we have Dr. Willie Mutumbwa, who is in court, and we have for Mr. Professor Guleye and Mr. Peter Wanyama for Commissioner Molu. Thank you.
Okay. That is noted. We can now proceed to invite counsel for petitioner in petition number E002 of 2022.
Thank you very much, Your Ladyship, the Chief Justice, members of the court. I wish to make submissions this afternoon before you on behalf of the third petitioners in the consolidated petition. The petition filed by the third petitioner, initially as petition number 2 of 2022, raises or has issues that deal with all the issues that had been framed all 9 issues that had been framed for determination by the court. But in respect of issues number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I will rely on the written submissions that we have filed or that have been filed on behalf of the third petitioner. And I will utilize my time on my feet this afternoon to focus on issue number 6, the conjoined issue number 7, number 8, and number 9 of the issues that the court framed or the court has framed for determination. I wish to get straight into issue number 6. And my humble understanding of issue number 6, and I will read it just for clarity, whether the IEBC has carried out the verification, tallying, and declaration of results in accordance with Article 138(3)(c) and 138(10) of the Constitution. Again, it is my humble understanding from the manner in which that issue is phrased that what the court is inquiring into is not whether tallying and verification should be done in accordance with Article 138(3)(c) and 138(10), but indeed whether tallying was carried out by Article 138(3)(c) and 138(10) by the IEBC. Time was taken by my learned senior colleague, Mr. Paul Mwangi, earlier on this morning, to make submissions as to what the IEBC is, the meaning and definition of the IEBC, and what amounts or what body or group of people then amount to the IEBC. And that is a submission of law, and I don't intend to repeat the submissions that were made by my learned senior colleague. But the issue as framed in number 6 invites a detailed factual inquiry. And that factual inquiry is the factual question of was the tallying and verification during the or after the presidential election that is the subject of these petitions indeed carried out by the IEBC. I wish to start my submissions by referring you to a press statement. And that press statement is by the chairman of the IEBC. I believe he's the second respondent. That press statement is dated the 17th of August 2022, and that press statement is to be found in volume 4 of the third petitioner's documents at pages 493 to 496. That press statement is dated the 17th of August. It is headed, the subject is staff murder, profiling, and misleading reports on the presidential election. It is under the hand of the chairman of the IEBC, and it is divided into 3 parts. I wish to focus my submissions on part 3. And part 3 is headed Declaration of Presidential Results. And I submit that this press statement is important because it is the first account by the second respondent as to how tallying and verification took place. In line 12, he states, "For the avoidance of doubt, the law provides that the chairperson of the commission is the returning officer of the presidential election." I will emphasize on that the chairperson of the commission is the returning officer of the presidential election. I will submit in my submissions, and I will hope to persuade you that there is no such position as the returning officer of the presidential election. It is a creation of the chairperson of the IEBC, and it is created for the purposes of executing a very calculated scheme. Be that as it may, I wish you to then go on to the second paragraph from the end at line 34, where he says, "As per Article 86C of the Constitution of Kenya, the results from the polling stations are openly and accurately collated and promptly announced by the returning officer." The next sentence is important. "It is also important to note that Regulation 87 of the Election General Regulations provides," and he then goes on to state that he, as the chairperson, is the one who is then empowered to tally or to verify and tally the results. Again, later on on page 495, he goes on to state, "This constitutional mandate," and he's talking about the mandate to tally and verify, "this constitutional mandate falls squarely on the chairman of the commission, who is the national returning officer." Again, he repeats that, as gazetted in Gazette Notice number 4956 of the 28th of April 2022. "The role of the national returning officer for the presidential election is not a shared responsibility and not subject to plenary discussion of the commission." Very important, because at the end of the day, this is how the second respondent then tallied, verified, and declared the results, but we will get to that later on. He states in the paragraph beginning as the gazetted national returning officer that in the spirit of teamwork, the chairperson involved the commissioners. That is all he did. In the spirit of teamwork, he felt that there was no duty to involve them. All he did was involve the commissioners. And again, later on during my submissions, I will get to that. My learned senior colleagues who submitted before me dwelt in detail on the content of Regulation 83. The content of Regulation 83(2) and Regulation 87(3)(1), Regulation 87(3) in its entirety, and the manner in which those two regulations enable the chairperson singularly to tally or to verify and tally results in the presidential election. I do not wish to take any time to go through those two regulations, merely to state that it is my humble and respectful position that those two regulations are inconsistent with the provisions of Article 138(3)(c) of the Constitution, because they enable the result in the presidential election to be verified and tallied in a manner other than envisaged by the Constitution. there is a substantive prayer in the petition to declare those two regulations unconstitutional. And I state for that reason that relief should be granted. Later on in my submissions, I will then make submissions as to the consequence